Well, after what seems like an eternity, Xbox have now brought us their ultimate summer sale event, and this is actually seeing over 1,700 games being discounted. There were so many games that were at such incredible values, but what I've done today is collated a list of my top 30 games that you need to buy right now, and I've even categorized them by their respective price tags. As always though, I do give away a free Xbox game on these sales videos every single week, and all you have to do is comment below for a chance to win. Congratulations to last week's winner. Just hit me up on our awesome Discord server and I will get that game right over to you. To the rest of you, if this video gets over 1,000 likes, we will give away 2 more games on an upcoming sales video of 25 games under £5, and that'll be at the start of next week. With that though, my name is Fletcher and this is Xbox Nation. Now let's dive in and look at these insane sales coming our way. First up today, we have an atmospheric, eerie and oddly beautiful game known as Little Nightmares 2, and it really builds on everything that made the original such a cult classic. In this one though, you'll be playing as Mono, a young boy navigating a world that's warped by television signals and then haunted by some pretty grotesque creatures. The game never needs any dialogue, it actually conveys horror and emotion purely through visual storytelling and also its sound design. At 90% off, now down to just £2.50, this is one of the most memorable side-scrolling horror titles that you can get on Xbox, and at this price it's almost criminal not to give it a go. Yes, it is now available on Xbox Game Pass, but for this price point, you might as well own this incredible indie gem. Remedy Entertainment actually bought their A game with Control, and this is a mind-bending third-person action title filled with supernatural powers, secret government agencies, and also environments that constantly shift around you. With the recent release of FBC Firebreak and its not-so-hot traction, it's well worth diving into the best part of the Control universe. This Ultimate Edition, which I'm also highlighting today, includes the base game and both of the expansions, known as the Foundation and AWE, and these add hours of narrative and exploration elements to the entire game. For just £5.24, you're getting one of the most polished and inventive action games of the last generation. Between the surreal atmosphere and the satisfying combat, it's an absolute must-play if you missed it at launch. It definitely had a rocky start, and I could even say a rocky first 2 years, but Battlefield 2042 has undergone a massive transformation. With tons of regular updates, new maps and reworked mechanics, this large-scale multiplayer shooter now feels much closer to what us fans actually expected from this franchise. Yes, we may not have the perfect class design of the original games, and yes, it does still include the frustrating operators, but they have reworked it so bloody well. The massive 128 player battles, futuristic tech and chaotic destruction across huge environments make for an adrenaline-fueled experience that feels better than ever. It is now down to just £3, an enormous 95% off, and it's never been cheaper to dive into this large-scale warfare game. I still dive into it from time to time, and it's in a better state than it's ever been before. Signy is a modern take on the bullet hell genre, with visuals that could easily pass for a big budget cinematic trailer, and I'm surprised that a lot of you have probably never heard of this one before. The twin stick shooting here is absolutely intense, but what really sets this one apart though from its competition is its combination of tight arcade gameplay and also its stunning sci-fi presentation. You will be dodging lasers, customizing your ship, and then tearing through waves of beautifully animated enemies. At £6.24 after a solid 75% off, it's a perfect choice, especially if you're a fan of shoot 'em ups or if you're just craving something stylish, fast-paced, and just different from the usual fare. I have mentioned this next game on the channel before, as it did arrive back on Xbox Game Pass a couple of months ago now, but if you love chaotic co-op action, then Vermintide 2 is an absolute gem. I wanted to highlight the Ultimate Edition today as it does include some extra characters, missions, and also some cosmetic items and gear. Basically, you and up to 3 friends will face off against massive waves of Skaven and Chaos forces in first-person melee-heavy romp that feels kind of like Left 4 Dead meets Warhammer. It's now down to just £4.24 thanks to that hefty 90% discount, and this version is packed with tons of content. Whether you're jumping into it solo or with your friends, it's a great way to lose hundreds of hours in one of the most satisfying hack and slash co-op games out on the market. At just £1.62, Roki is a rare kind of indie adventure that quietly delivers one of the most heartfelt narratives that I've played in recent years. This one though is actually inspired by Scandinavian folklore, and it follows a young girl named Tove who embarks on a dreamlike journey through snow-covered mountains and also mystical forests to save her brother. The game's tone here is actually quite delicate but very respectful, and explores themes of grief and healing through puzzle solving and gentle exploration. What I really love most of my time with Roki though is just how it uses that sort of stunning art style, not just for visual appeal, but also to build some incredible emotional weight. The hand-drawn visuals here, alongside that haunting score and silent memories, all come together to create a fairy tale that feels both timeless but very grounded. It's not about combat or action like others in this list today, it's actually more about atmosphere, emotion, and also its character. With a 90% discount, this is a quiet masterpiece that you definitely shouldn't overlook. Roguebook is easily one of my favourite deck building games of all time, and when I saw that it was 90% off in this current sale, I could not skip this deal. If you're unaware though, Roguebook is essentially a compelling mix of strategy, deck building, and exploration, and it really delivers some surprising depth in every single run. You basically will have to command a team of 2 different heroes whose cards, positioning, and abilities must be combined in creative ways to overcome increasingly difficult foes. The map itself is revealed by using ink to paint new paths, encouraging your strategic planning both in and out of combat. With hundreds of cards, relics, and combinations here, no 2 runs are ever the same in this roguelike adventure. Again, this game is only available in a sale for just £1.67, and that's a bloody bargain, so there's no excuse not to take the plunge on this game, as it's a high recommendation from me. If you're a Souls-like fan and looking for something different, then The Surge is a gritty industrial twist on this formula, and you can currently grab it for a low price of just £1.79. In this one though, you basically wake up in a dystopian tech facility armed with an exosuit, and what follows is a very brutal and punishing fight for survival. Instead of swords and shields in games like Elden Ring, it's all about scrap, mech mechanics, and dismembering enemies with precision strikes. What really hooked me though wasn't just a challenge of a Souls-like, but just how much that strategy goes into targeting limbs for gear and then customizing your very own exo rig. There's a really kind of satisfying upgrade loop here, which makes you feel stronger every time you manage to claw your way forward. It may not have the polish of games like Dark Souls, but its atmosphere, lore, and satisfying combat more than make up for it. For this price, it's a sci-fi grind that's definitely worth your time and easily worth it at a ridiculously low price point. Call of Juarez Gunslinger is one of the most fun arcade shooters that I've ever had a chance to play, and I really don't say that lightly. Right from the start, this game really grabs you with its unreliable narrator, who literally changes the story every time you play, twisting reality and then the gameplay in real time. The shooting here feels tight and flashy, the cel-shaded style is still striking today, and the duels are really packed with tons of tension. If you've ever wanted to feel like the fastest gunslinger in the West, this is the game for you. Even better, it's going for just a low price of just over £2, and that's less than a coffee for a game that delivers serious style and also tons of replayability. I've actually played through this one now multiple times just to hear the different ways that the story can unfold, and it still holds up in 2025. It's very fun, it's smart, and it doesn't take itself too seriously, which is a very rare mix in today's gaming landscape. From the team behind the Yakuza series, Judgment is a gripping detective thriller set in the same world, but then told from a completely different lens. Instead of playing as a gangster, you will actually step into the shoes of Takayuki Yagami, a disgraced lawyer turned private investigator. There's still tons of brawling in the streets, but now it's mixed with crime scene investigations, tailing suspects, and then unraveling one of the most compelling murder mysteries in recent memory. It's currently 75% off, and this is one of the best deals on Xbox right now if you want something with a very deep story and some very rich character development. What I loved with this one is just how it blends over the top fights with grounded detective work, as you'll go from chasing thugs across rooftops to then cross-examining some corrupt CEOs. It's stylish, brilliant, heartfelt, and also gripping from start to finish. Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts is a real kind of hidden gem that many of you still haven't played, and if you're unfamiliar, it's a tactical shooter that puts precision and planning above everything else. It's priced now at just £3.49 with a huge and staggering 90% off, and it offers some incredible value, especially if you're a fan of methodical gameplay or even just stealth games in general. Rather than a run and gun experience like games like Call of Duty, the game actually hands you some open-ended contracts and then lets you approach each objective however you want. That can be some quiet infiltration, long-range assassinations, or then just a chaotic firefight if things go south. You have to account for everything here, from distance, wind, breathing, and everything else, which then gives every headshot that cinematic slow-mo payoff. It's not the flashiest shooter out there by any means, but it rewards your patience and smart execution, and for under £4, I can't recommend it enough. Zombie Army 4 really cranked the chaos to 11 and never let up. I will preface this by saying that the game is on Xbox Game Pass currently, but for the low price point today, it's well worth grabbing, like I mentioned with Little Nightmares 2. This one though is set in an alternate history World War II, where blasting through hordes of the undead is gloriously gory in co-op or solo action. The game really shines though in its ridiculous creativity, as exploding zombie tanks, supernatural enemies and gruesome environmental kills all keep things very fresh and exciting. It's currently going for just £4, which is about 90% off its usual price point, and that's absurd considering the amount of content that's packed into the base game alone. I've actually spent countless hours now just replaying the missions with my friends, using the unique upgrade systems, the wild weapon mods, and even diving into the very unique DLC. It's an easy recommendation for me this week. This one's a slow burner, but an incredibly unique experience. Insurmountable, you'll play as a stranded mountaineer scaling deadly peaks with only your wits and a dwindling supply of stamina, warmth, and also hope. It is a roguelike survival adventure where every decision matters, so you'll have to make decisions like do you rest in a cave or then push forward into the blizzard. It can lead to triumph or even death, but that's where the game gets really interesting. It's currently 50% off, bringing the price down to just under £10, and this one is for all of you gamers out there who enjoy atmosphere, tension, and meaningful choices. By no means is this a flashy game, but it's gripping in its very own quiet way. I did always find myself sort of second guessing my routes and gear decision, and that's exactly what the game really wants you to do. If you love survival mechanics and high stakes exploration, this one is definitely worth the climb, and it's a real hidden gem in the Xbox Store sale. Now, for £9, this gets you one of the best surprises from Marvel's recent gaming efforts, and it was so overshadowed at the time due to the disastrous Avengers game. Guardians of the Galaxy really nailed that team dynamic with some fantastic writing, of course the lovable characters, and a story that actually lands really emotionally. You only directly control Star-Lord unfortunately, but then you can command the rest of the team mid-battle with different special moves and tactics, which definitely gives the combat a lot of variety and keeps it very energetic. The real hook though, as you'll see time and time again, is the banter. This game has some of the best in-game dialogue that I've ever heard, and it plays out naturally during combat, exploration, and also its story scenes. It really feels like a playable Marvel movie, but better paced and more heartfelt, and with a 85% discount, you're getting such a premium single-player experience. Visually, emotionally, and musically, Gris is easily one of the most beautiful games that I've ever had a chance to experience, and I wish I could actually erase this game from my mind so I could play it all over again. It's currently going for just around £3, but it's an awesome discount for such a short, meditative platformer that ditches combat entirely in favour of pure visual storytelling. In this one though, you'll play as a girl navigating a world of sorrow and growth, with each new area actually representing a different stage of grief. What makes Gris so special to me though is how much it actually communicates without saying a word. The animations are incredibly fluid, the soundtrack, well, it's utterly stunning, and the level design evolves with your emotional journey. I do recommend this one to start with, and then you'll no doubt be on board with their new game called Never, which actually came out not too long ago. There's nothing quite like it like Death Stranding, a very divisive, ambitious, and totally unique game, and that's kind of exactly why I really dig it. With 60% off, it's currently sitting at £14, and it's actually the best price we've seen on Xbox since its release, as usually the game only sits about the 50% discount mark. You really are getting Kojima's definitive vision. Better traversal, new story missions, improved combat, and then all the weirdness you kind of expect from a post-apocalyptic delivery simulator. What makes this one so special though is how it turns isolation into something more powerful. You're essentially walking through vast, haunting landscapes, slowly connecting the world one step at a time, and if you add in that haunting score and surprisingly emotional moments, this becomes an experience that lingers long after the credits roll. With the second one no doubt also coming to Xbox sometime in the near future, is well worth diving into this first experience to know what you're getting into. Everspace 2 is a space shooter that feels like complete freedom. It gives you a huge galaxy to explore, ship-to-ship combat that feels very fast and fluid, and then loot systems that constantly push you towards that next brand new upgrade. Right now, it's just £13.50, and honestly, this is one of the best space action games that we've had in recent years. What surprised me though is how much depth the game has right out the gate. You're not just dogfighting, you're then diving into mining outposts, salvaging wrecks, managing your inventories, and shaping your ship's build in creative ways. It's like Diablo meets Freelancer, and if that sounds like your thing, then you're gonna lose hours in the best way possible. There is also some incredible DLC called Wrath of the Ancients, which I unfortunately won't be covering in this sale, but I highly recommend it if you get a chance after completing the base incredible game. I saw many of you within the comments actually asking about this next game, and finally it is on sale for the low price of just £14 thanks to a 60% off sale. Age of Empires 4 Anniversary Edition takes everything great about the original series but modernizes it with some fresh campaigns, detailed historical storytelling, and clean, satisfying tactical gameplay. Whether you're building a medieval empire or want to defend it with perfectly timed cavalry charges, the balance between macro and micro gameplay is still perfectly intact here. I still love though that this one doesn't try to reinvent the wheel, it just kind of makes it sharper and much better. For strategy fans, it is an essential pickup, and the controller support here is so excellently implemented, and it really does beg the question if you no longer need a PC. What happens when you mix a roguelike, an FPS, and a spaghetti western with aliens? Well, you get Wild Bastards, one of the most creative genre mashups that I've played this year. It's down to just £11.19, and if you love games that play with style and tone, then this is one to definitely look at. Basically, you will jump between different planets, building up a crew of outlaws with unique abilities, and then shooting your way through stylish, fast-paced combat encounters. Honestly, the main reason I got so hooked into this one in my sort of 10-hour playtime is just how every character feels very distinct, but also the run-based loops keep the action very fresh. It's kind of weird, is really scrappy, and loaded with tons of personality, just like the name suggests. Now, at a hefty 70% off, King Arthur Knight's Tale is a really gritty tactical RPG that really reimagined the legendary tales through a dark, morally grey lens. It does combine turn-based XCOM style combat with very deep RPG systems, so if you don't like those sort of experiences, it might be worth skipping this one. However, there is a heavy emphasis on player choice. What I really enjoy though is that sort of twist it puts on Arthurian mythology, and we've seen some great games this year, especially within that sort of Arthurian way. You're not just playing the hero as well here, you're more navigating a cursed kingdom full of tough calls and darker consequences. The visuals, as you can probably see, are actually quite striking. The battles here though are very challenging, and the base building layer adds such long-term strategy to the entire experience. It's ideal for all of you who kind of want something a bit more grim and grounded than your average fantasy RPG. Conscript really is a love letter to the golden age of survival horror, but what really makes it stand out, as you can probably see on screen now, is its setting. In this one, you're deep in the trenches of World War I, scavenging for your supplies, solving cryptic puzzles, and then fighting off obviously both human enemies and your very own dread. The fixed camera angles, along with the tight inventory and slow burn tension, are straight from the Resident Evil playbook, and it works incredibly well and absolutely beautifully. I really admire though how confidently this game captures a sense of isolation and desperation, with every sound, footstep, and encounter designed to keep you incredibly uneasy. It's currently 50% off, sitting at just £11, and if you're a fan of gritty horror and want something a little bit more unique in terms of atmosphere, this one's a solid pick. Priced at just £12.59, Tales of Iron 2 sharpens everything from the original, and once again is an absolute masterpiece. You'll once again know in the armour of Reggie, the heroic rat prince, but this time the frostbitten world has grown even more treacherous. I do love though how it still pairs that sort of charming storybook visuals with its brutally tight combat. Every parry, dodge, and counter feels very earned, and the boss battles here genuinely test your reflexes in every single way. There's such a wonderful contrast at play here as well, especially for an indie experience. The grim violence and surprisingly deep world building wrapped in a gorgeous hand-drawn aesthetic is just utterly immense. If you enjoy side-scrolling action with a bit of bite and a strong sense of atmosphere, it's an easy recommendation. Surprisingly enough, I actually picked up Botti Biteland Overclocked a couple of months ago now, and this is one of those sort of cheerful surprises that I didn't expect to enjoy as much as I really did. It's a 3D platformer that takes you into a bright digital universe, packed with zany movement mechanics, charming robot characters, and even clean level design that feels like a modern nod to the golden age of platformers. I know many actually compare this to the likes of Astrobot, so it's definitely worth playing if you've always wanted to sort of try those sort of experiences. What really made this one work for me though is just how fluid the controls are here, as bouncing, gliding, and boosting through cyberspace feels incredibly great. There's also a solid variety in terms of its gameplay, from minigames to puzzle sections, and it never overstays its welcome. If you're looking for a light-hearted, more nostalgic break from the usual gritty releases out there, this is a perfect pickup. You can now grab Mortal Kombat 1 for just under 15 quid, which is a quite steep discount from its original price point, and is honestly one of the strongest fighting games that you can get on Xbox right now. This reboot though actually pushes the franchise forward with its smoother animations, brutal finishes, and also a fresh timeline, and it gives even long-time fans something new to chew on for the very first time. What I love though is how much single-player content it packs in from the get-go, from the cinematic story mode to the in-depth towers and customization systems. There's a lot here beyond the usual PvP. The new cameo mechanics are also opening up some very creative strategies for every kind of player, and although it's not my favourite kind of mechanic in my own opinion, it was great to see something new actually being implemented into this franchise. I just get so hooked on the multiplayer, so if that's your main aim, then you'll have an absolute blast here. Going for just £10.12p at 55% off, Jusant is a peaceful, more meditative climbing adventure that stands out because of its simplicity and also its beauty. There's no combat here though, it's just you and the wall, and a wonderfully atmospheric world that does reveal itself as you ascend. It's kind of a bit like a game called Journey crossed with Celeste, only slower and more contemplative. What kept me playing though was just how tactile it feels, as every handhold matters, every new vista is incredibly rewarding, and the way that the narrative unfolds without a single line of dialogue is actually quite genuinely impressive. It's not a massively long experience, but it is one that's an incredible journey from start to finish, and it's well worth it. If you're looking for something more calm and reflective with some stunning art direction, then this one deserves a place in your library. I think it's safe to say that Final Fantasy XVI is easily one of the most immersive RPG experiences that I've had in a long time. The game takes a more mature and darker approach to its storytelling, tackling themes like political conflict, betrayal, and personal sacrifice. The world building here is utterly outstanding, as each region feels very unique and real, and making you feel like you're part of a truly living, breathing world. The real-time combat is fast and fluid and incredibly satisfying, especially when you're chaining together your combos or unleashing icon powers, and that's nothing short of bloody cinematic. The attention to detail in every battle and cutscene is remarkable, and it kind of harkens me to the days of the real Devil May Cry games. It's currently 30% off at £35, which is a fantastic deal considering the amount of content and production value at your fingertips, and this is actually the first time it's ever been on sale since its Xbox launch. Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora Gold Edition was another game that really did exceed my entire expectations. I didn't actually think it would capture me as much as it did, as I wasn't actually a fan of the original films. The gameplay though does a phenomenal job of bringing Pandora to life. You have the lush, vibrant landscapes, and they're absolutely jaw-dropping, and the sense of scale when you're flying on a banshee or just exploring the forest is just really incredible. The combat is also very engaging, with enough depth to keep you invested, especially when you're taking on the RDA forces. What I did love most though is how immersive this world actually felt, and there's a sort of real sense of adventure and discovery here, and the team over at Massive did an incredibly good job. The Gold Edition, which is currently 70% off, comes with all the extras as well, just making it such better value. If you're into an open world exploration game and want to dive into something more visually stunning and a sci-fi adventure, then this is an absolute steal. This next game is perfect if you love fast-paced action and a very good challenge. Wolong Fallen Dynasty Complete Edition is a game that takes everything that you love from current Souls-like combat titles and mixes it with Chinese mythology, creating a very fresh experience that keeps you on your toes. The difficulty is definitely there, but once you get the hang of it, the combat feels so satisfying, especially when you're timing your parries or pulling off some devastating combos. I really appreciate that they delve deeper into that sort of Dynasty Warriors universe, and seeing bosses such as Guan Yu and Lu Bu was really a sight to behold. Right now it's 40% off, which is a solid price for a game that offers such a lot of challenge and replayability. If you're a fan of action RPGs with tight rewarding combat, then this one is well worth it. New World Eternum is a great pickup if you're into MMOs, or if you just want to lose yourself in an expansive open world. There's something about this game that's just so bloody addictive, whether it's the combat, which feels like tactical and very rewarding, or the constant sense of the overall discovery. I do love though how every single region in this game does feel different, and there's always something new for you to uncover. The game does a great job of looking to blend sort of PvP and PvE elements, so whether you're taking on monsters or facing off against other players, there's always that sort of sense of excitement, which is great to see in an MMO. With 40% off now down to just £30, it's a really solid deal, especially if you're looking for a big MMO experience. I think it's safe to say that Space Marine 2 is a must-play for Warhammer fans or just anyone looking for some intense, brutal combat. The original Space Marine was obviously a blast to play through, and this sequel though does kick everything up a notch with even more action, better visuals, and a deeper storyline. The entire game is just such a highlight from start to finish. The story is absolutely incredible with some gorgeous visuals, epic action, and a brutal narrative. You then have the incredible Operation mode that has so many replayable missions, and co-op is fantastic. And then you even have the PvP, which is being constantly updated and is incredible to dive into from time to time. The Gold Edition, which is currently 45% off at just under £47 in this sale, offers extra content, mainly including the Season Pass, which does give you a ton of content out the gates. If you're into fast-paced action and want to feel like an unstoppable space warrior, then this game is certainly made for you. So what games are you going to be picking up in this Xbox Summer Sale? You have to let me know down below. Of course, do leave that comment below as you'll want to enter our free Xbox game giveaway every single week. If we do hit 1,000 likes by this Sunday, I will be giving away a couple of game keys. With that, make sure you're subscribed for more Xbox content every single day, and whilst you're here, why don't you check out the video on screen now, as I covered the awesome Xbox Game Pass games that are coming to us for the remainder of July and into August.